Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading, Massachusetts. Sunday morning worship service. My name is Andy Gatchell, and I am a member of the worship arts team. My pronouns are he and him. We choose to share our pronouns because we know people of all genders are whole, holy, and loved. We welcome you here today as we join together to create a space where we nurture and explore individual spirituality, build a committed and loving community, and help heal our world. If this is your first time with us today, we are so happy about our beloved community. There you can connect with our staff, or for those of us here in the sanctuary this morning, please come speak to any one of us you see on the chancel in the fellowship hall after the service. If you're watching this service online during its initial broadcast at 10 a.m. on May the 19th, please don't join us after the service for conversation via Zoom, as it will be replaced by today's annual meeting. If you're attending in person, please grab a quick beverage after the service and join us in here for the annual meeting. On behalf of all of us involved in bringing you today's worship, there's one more thing that we want you to know. You belong here, maybe for just the next hour, though we hope longer. You belong here, and we are glad that you're with us today.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning. My name is Reverend Laura Solomon. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the minister here at UUCR, and it is a privilege to serve this community and the world with you. As we gather this morning, I invite you to take a breath, arrive. Many of you are in it for the long haul this morning with the annual meeting after worship, so arrive. That meeting is not now. That laundry is not now. That grocery shopping is not now. This is now. And we breathe, and this is now. We are here together now. When your mind wanders this morning, I invite you to come back to now. Gently and with patience, come back to this moment. Our opening words come from Rebecca Solnit in her book, Hope in the Dark. She writes, "Hope is not a lottery ticket you can sit on the sofa and clutch, feeling lucky. It is an axe you break down doors with in an emergency. Hope should shove you out the door because it takes everything you have to steer the future away from endless war, from the annihilation of the earth's treasures and the grinding down of the poor and marginal. To hope is to give yourself to the future, and that commitment to the future is what makes the present inhabitable." Let us worship. We light our flaming chalice this morning with Unitarian Universalists all around the globe. I invite you to call into your heart the flame you kindle this morning, the flame of truth, of community, of commitment to love and justice. Please join me in reciting our chalice lighting words. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. Each week we recite our children's affirmation as a reminder of the most important elements of who we are. It looks like I have several helpers this morning. Come on up, my friends. We are Unitarian, Universalists, the Church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Thank you for your help. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing our opening hymn, number 343, A Fire Mist and a Planet.
Time to invite the children forward for Time for All Ages, or anybody who wants to come forward. Yay. Hey everybody, my name is Kimberly. I'm the RE coordinator here. And today we're talking about hope. Can anyone tell me what is hope? Anyone have an idea? Usually Ethan has some good ideas. Yeah, Jonah? Something that you need? Yeah, good one. Yeah? That first part was good. Never stop trying, never giving up. Anyone else have any words about what hope is? No? Well, one definition, or how about one more thing? Has anyone ever felt hopeful or hope before? Maybe you have a time where you felt hope or hopeful? Yeah. Well, one definition I read that I really liked for hope is the feeling of trust. And I have an example story. Many of you know that I recently moved. Before I found my new home, I saw lots of apartments and places I could live, but after a long time of searching, I hadn't found anywhere that seemed like the right place for me. How do you think I felt? Yeah? Maybe not totally hopeless, but it was pretty hard to feel really hopeful. And I definitely felt a little disappointed because I wasn't sure what I was going to find. But I kept reminding myself to hold hope anyway. I reminded myself to trust that the right place was out there. Trust myself that I would find it, and trust that Spirit, Goddess, God, the universe, would lead me to it. And that's exactly what happened. The right place did come. So what can we do in those moments when it's hard to be hopeful? Anybody have ideas? What can we do? Yeah, Jonah? Nothing. Just sit with it. Sit with our feelings. Ethan? Yeah, trying to figure out a way to be hopeful and not hopeless. So something we talked about a few weeks ago was envisioning things unfolding in the way that we want, picturing in our mind things getting better and working out well. And even if we can't picture a good outcome, can we trust that things will be okay? The more we practice trusting, the easier it gets. Another thing I like to do to create hope is to sing about it. There is a song that we sang last Sunday at our Mother's Day for Peace event, and it is called We Rise by Batya Levine. And we use this song to lift up and send out our hope for a peaceful world. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of this song today. Is everybody ready to sing a little? Great. All right. So the main part that I want you to know is just the word rise. And the chorus goes like this. We rise. So can you all just sing rise? We rise. And I'm going to sing some words in between. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors surround us. And the last one goes, rise. That was great. Okay, there's one more part we're going to learn. And I'll sing it and you can sing it back. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. And that's the whole thing. All right, so we're going to sing it together a couple times. Reverend Laura said I could bring my drum today.
Always bring the drum.
Woohoo! All right, so we'll start with We Rise, and we'll go into the In Hope part. We rise, all of the children rise, elders with wisdom rise, ancestors surround us rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. Great singing, everyone. Let's sing it one more time, and maybe you can imagine some hope lifting inside of yourselves. We can send out our hope, bring it into our hearts, and let's sing it one more time. We'll go to We Rise. We rise, all of the children rise, elders Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors surround us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. One more time. We rise. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors surround us, rise. Thanks, everyone. Great singing. All right. And we'll sing the children off to our game day today.
I love having a musical RE coordinator. It's so lovely. We take time during our service to light our candles of community, peace, and justice. We light our red candle of community to signify our interconnection. Wherever you are, in time or space, newcomer or longtime member here in the sanctuary or joining us virtually, we light this candle holding you in love. Today we particularly hold in our hearts Anne Model. Anne died on Wednesday morning, and we hold her husband, Tom, and their children and grandchildren in our hearts. Anne's memorial service will be June 8th at 11 a.m. here at UUCR. Friends, we are in such a deep time of loss here at UUCR. And I know so many of you are holding grief for friends and loved ones who have passed in this year. If you are grieving friends or family, whether here at UUCR or elsewhere in your lives, will you stand so that we can be with you? Please speak aloud the name or names of people you are grieving today. Our hearts are with you. You may be seated. We light our blue candle of peace for all the places worldwide where people live with the threat of war and violence. And we light our yellow candle of justice. May all people everywhere live their lives in freedom. And may we each do our part in the work for justice and liberation for all in our global community. As we recommit ourselves to this work of love and justice, please voice this commitment by saying amen. Will you join me in a moment of prayer? God, Spirit of life, our hearts are heavy with the losses we are carrying individually and as a community. We feel these losses intimately. We feel them in our bodies. We feel them in the empty spaces, in our pews, in our homes. God, we ask for the strength to rely on one another, to turn to each other in our moments of need. We ask for strength that we may be there for one another, that we may show up when we are needed, that we may know the right words to say, that we may offer each other presence. We know that presence is the greatest gift we can bring to one another. And so we offer it with full, loving hearts. God, as we go into this week, we ask that you be with us. Help us remain grounded. Help us remain present to ourselves and to one another. Amen. If you would like to honor a joy or sorrow through lighting a silent candle, you are invited to come forward now.
Our first reading today is from an article entitled, "Why Do We Love Apocalyptic Stories?" by Doug Brown. Author Emily St. John Mandel explores the question of why we love apocalyptic stories. She proposes several theories. It's about economic justice. We long to blow up systems that are fundamentally unfair and start over. It's about heroism. We suspect that disastrous circumstances provide a place for our better angels to emerge. It's about anxiety over all the natural or unnatural disasters that surround us, as well as the technologies that have moved beyond our control. Her most resonant theory is that we have always thought it is the end of the world. And maybe it is. Maybe the world is continually ending and evolving. But the word apocalypse does not really mean disaster or collapse. It's an ancient word that comes from a Greek word meaning to uncover. In the couple of hundred years, both before and after Jesus, the word became attached to Jewish and Christian writings that were of a prophetic nature, especially prophecies about the destruction of the world. The most famous of these is the revelation of John that closes out the New Testament in the Bible. This revelation purports to reveal or uncover what will happen at the end of times. Short version, not a lot of good things. Since that became the accepted take on apocalypse, the word eventually came to mean an uncovering or revelation, and more a description of doomsday scenarios. And yet, these stories can be revealing.
Our second reading is from a poem titled "The World Keeps Ending and the World Goes On" by Franny Choi. Before the apocalypse, there was the apocalypse of boats. Boats of prisoners, boats cracking under sky iron, boats making corpses bloom like algae on the shore. Before the apocalypse, there was the apocalypse of the bombed mosque. There was the apocalypse of the taxi driver warped by flame. There was the apocalypse of the leaving and the having left. Before the apocalypse, there was the apocalypse of planes. There was the apocalypse of pipelines snaking their way through sacred water and the apocalypse of the dogs. Before the apocalypse, there was the apocalypse of bees, the apocalypse of buses, border fence apocalypse, coat hanger apocalypse, apocalypse in the textbook selective silences. I was born from an apocalypse and have come to tell you what I know. By the time the apocalypse began, the world had already ended. It ended every day for a century or two. It ended and another world spun in its place. It ended and we woke up and ordered Greek coffees, drew the hot liquid through our teeth as everywhere the apocalypse rumbled, the apocalypse remembered our dear, beloved apocalypse. It drifted slowly from the trees all around us, so loud we stopped hearing it.
Such a
Thank you. As many of you know, our theme for the month is pluralism, and we have focused on fiction being a place from which we draw knowledge and inspiration. We've talked about Afrofuturism and science fiction and hope punk genres. Post-apocalyptic fiction, as a spiritual teacher, feels like a natural way to proceed. Back in 2018, there was a tweet that went viral on the internet from sci-fi author Patrick S. Tomlinson. 2018 was the year of the school shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. As you likely remember, the activism from students in Parkland was incredible, sparking March for Our Lives rallies all over the country. Tomlinson tweeted in response to those who spoke against the teens' activism, saying, "You watched a generation grow up on a diet of Harry Potter, Hunger Games, and Marvel movies. You stripped away their jobs, their future, their hope, and you're shocked the children are fighting back? You followed the script to a T," he continued. "You pumped up millions of kids for 2 decades that they and their friends could make a difference. Then you thrust them into a dystopian nightmare of violence and persecution, and now you're shocked they're all Katniss? Get them, children," he concluded. "Leave no one standing." If there was ever an endorsement for apocalyptic fiction, I think this is it. If there was ever a time where we needed stories about people surviving in apocalyptic circumstances, it is now. This has been said increasingly in the past few years. The climate crisis, political upheaval, the pandemic, reversal of human rights previously established, all of these things have brought up references to authors who have written about what things might look like at the end of the world. But as people mostly want to use fiction as a means of escape, I was curious about why humans are drawn to apocalyptic fiction. Don't get me wrong, I'm into it. Zombies aren't so much my thing, but people surviving the end times, machines developing consciousness, utter chaos and devastation, and survival of the few in the midst of the chaos, I'm here for it. Humans have always been intrigued by, scared of, interested in, wondered about the end of the world. If one looks at the Wikipedia page entitled List of Dates Predicted for Apocalyptic Events, it is something like 14 pages long and has entry after entry starting in the year 66. It's easy to imagine what led to each of those predictions. Solar eclipses before scientific understanding of such things. Pandemics and plagues and times of transition where humans were trying to live, and periods of transitions humans were trying to live through in which they did not know how to imagine a way forward. A time of threshold in which the future seemed so vast, so dark or uncertain, it was easier to believe the end of the world had arrived. Yet each of those times, starting in the year 66, each time humans learned that it was not actually the end with a capital E. It might have been the end with a small e, an end of something for sure. It was one apocalypse of the many apocalypses to come. Each time, starting in the year 66, people learned that there was a way out of the darkness and through the mess. They learn that chaos and confusion and even death and destruction does not mean the end of the world. Rather, it's an opening, a threshold where we cross into a different kind of after. All we know for certain is that we are living in the after of many, many apocalypses. When we go back to the root of the word, we realize that perhaps we should think of apocalypse not just as the end of the world as we know it, thank you, REM, but as an uncovering or revelation. Perhaps apocalypse is not the fiery end in the Bible or the barren wasteland we have come to associate with the word. Perhaps it is an uncovering or revelation of what is already here. In August of 2019, I gathered with fellow seminarians for the beginning of the school year at Meadville Lombard Theological School. We were informed that over the course of the year, we would be tackling the theme, Embracing the Apocalypse. The president of my school, Dr. Elias Ortega, gave a sermon titled Ministry at the End of the World. A rousing sermon designed to serve as a call to action, Dr. Ortega said, "It is very likely that in the future, our world will be no more. There seems to be very little within our power to prevent this reality, the apocalyptic end of our world. Our efforts may be too few and come at too late a time for survival. What future could this be but no future at all?" Dr. Ortega went on to talk about facing the end of the world with compassion and hope, courage and faithfulness. Your task, he said, is to ready yourself for ministry at the end of the world. So that was my welcome into my second year of seminary. Not sure that's totally what I signed up for, but several months later, COVID-19 hit, and we went into pandemic lockdown. Ultimately, I find that I'm not interested in thinking about the end of the world as it's portrayed, zombies and destruction and machines taking over. I'm actually not thinking about the apocalypse as the end of us. But I do find value in thinking about the apocalypse as revelation, which is emergence and hope. What if we read post-apocalyptic books, watch post-apocalyptic shows, not because it glamorizes the end of the world, but because it is about uncovering the truths of our world that need to be named? While I initially balked at the idea that I had to ready myself for a career of apocalypse ministry, I feel differently now. If I could go back, I might still have advised Dr. Ortega not to lead with apocalypse, but we are living in a changing world in need of dramatic change. By the time the apocalypse began, Franny Choi wrote in our reading today, the world had already ended. It ended every day for a century or two. It ended, and another ending world spun in its place. I read several articles on people's theories about why these types of stories are popular, and I would argue potentially even needed. When humans have always used a particular storyline, there must be a necessary function it serves. One theory I read that I found intriguing was that post-apocalyptic fiction gives us an escape from denial. While we think of fiction as giving us an escape from reality, author Todd Mitchell says that we also need a place where our knowledge of the dissonance we feel from society is named. On the surface, things are good, he says. Compared to many points in history, we are living in a golden age. We have modern medicine and science and electricity and running water just for starters. We know that all our pollution and overconsumption is driving the planet to ruin. We might not accept the science of climate change, but we can't ignore the droughts and floods, superstorms, forest fires, heat waves, and other signs of a world spinning out of balance. Nor can we ignore the many signs of social inequality leading to civil unrest, he writes. The dissonance this creates is uncomfortable. It feels contradictory, so it sends us into denial. Either we deny that things are good, or we deny that there are underlying problems with our society, and that contradiction goes away. I would add that in order for us to live and function in our daily lives, we need to engage some amount of denial. Otherwise, we would be paralyzed by the impact of our choices in a dying world. Mitchell continues, dystopian and post-apocalyptic fiction offers us a vision of the world gone wrong, so that the problems that must not be mentioned in our real lives can finally be confronted. These books offer us a way to escape the constant cultural need to deny the underlying problems of our society. There's something cathartic in that. We need places where we can name what we know to be real. Imagine the worst case scenario. It's healthy to name it out loud, to imagine what is so feared that it cannot be said. If I had to summarize all of my sermons, all of the points I make most in pastoral care, I would say it can be summarized by embodying the principle of both and. The idea that more than one thing can be true at once. You can feel both grateful and resentful in your parenting. A death, a breakup, a divorce can feel both like heartbreak and relief. You can both love your job and be overwhelmed by it. You can both enjoy your work and wish you had more time for family. The world is beautiful and terrible. It is beginning and ending. It is changing and it needs to change. Author John Green has a podcast and a book titled The Anthropocene Reviewed. I highly recommend both to you for the beautiful, honest reflections on how it is being human. In the introduction to the book, he writes this: "It has taken me all my life up to now to fall in love with the world, but I've started to feel it the last couple years. To fall in love with the world isn't to ignore or overlook suffering, both human and otherwise. For me, anyway, to fall in love with the world is to look up at the night sky and feel your mind swim before the beauty and the distance of the stars. It's to hold your children while they cry, to watch as the sycamore trees leaf out in June. When my breastbone starts to hurt and my throat tightens and tears well in my eyes, I want to look away from feeling. I want to deflect with irony or anything else that will keep me from feeling directly. We all know how loving ends. But I want to fall in love with the world anyway, to let it crack me open. I want to feel what there is to feel while I'm here." We are all holding so much both and. So many contradictory truths that are actually all true at once. Every moment, the world is ending and another world is beginning. Every moment, we are wrestling with the world as it should be versus the world as it is. We all know how loving ends, John Green wrote. But I want to fall in love with the world anyway, to let it crack me open. I want to feel what there is to feel while I'm here. The world is ending and another world is beginning. And we are here in the mess of it. Let's be here, loving while we can. Amen.
Okay. Each Sunday, UUCR gives away half the money received in the collection plate to a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. It's a simple yet powerful way for each of us to help heal the world. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of May is the Reading Juneteenth Freedom Festival. The fourth annual Juneteenth Freedom Fest will be held on Saturday, June 15th, on the Reading Town Common. There will be food, musical performances, a DJ, and a pop-up marketplace. Our congregation survives through the gifts of those who call this place their spiritual home. If you are here with us in the sanctuary, you may put a gift in the plate as it goes by. Otherwise, you can make a gift online or send a check. Please give as generously as you are willing and able to support the Share the Plate offering, to support Reading Juneteenth Freedom Festival, and the mission of UUCR. If this is your first time with us, please let the plate pass you by. Your presence is gift enough. The morning offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
Like this brief day, my light is nearly gone. But through the night, my children
Thank you, choir. That was stunning. I am Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm excited to remind you to save these upcoming dates that all include supporting our greater community and bringing our Unitarian Universalist values out into the world. So join me in representing UCR at these upcoming events. Next Wednesday, May 29th, join us as we welcome the class of 2024 and their families for the special baccalaureate service led by the Reading Clergy Association right here at 7 p.m. with a special ice cream social to follow. Let us know if you'd like to welcome or bring your ice cream scoop to help. See the church newsletter for ways to participate in the Reading Pride Parade, which is Saturday, June 1st from 3 to 5. Again, the Reading Juneteenth Freedom Festival is Saturday, June 15th. And we would love to have you be part of our Proud Together team to march in the North Shore Pride Parade on Saturday, June 22nd. You can sign up in the newsletter. If you are interested in supporting the Religious Education Program's UNICEF fundraiser to support the children of Gaza, please order your t-shirt by tomorrow's deadline. Kimberly will be taking orders in the atrium after service. In our congregational life this week, you're invited to our Buddhist meditation group tomorrow evening, or pop into our social crafty drop-in, which is on Tuesday evening from 7 to 9. As Reverend Laura mentioned earlier, and you may have received her email, invitation to come together this Wednesday evening as a congregation to grieve all of our losses, both personal and collective, that we've experienced this year. Join us for a ritual of grief and sharing by Reverend Laura in Fellowship Hall at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. We'll be there to support one another and gather with compassion and companionship as we remember together. For this reason, our program council meeting has been moved from Wednesday to the following day on Thursday at 7 p.m. in Loring 101. Next Sunday's service will be a treat when UCR congregants will take the lead and share a service prepared on fiction as a spiritual teacher from their perspectives. So we hope you'll join us. And for today, members are encouraged to participate in this important congregational meeting, either in person or on Zoom. We'll start at 11:30. And thank you to Dakota Rain for making some coffee for us, for those who will be here. Thank you to every person who has helped make this day possible. And thank you all for being a vital part of our congregational life. And now please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 345. With joy we claim the growing light.
Oh, friends, I love you all. The service got me this morning. Goodness, let's extinguish our chalice together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The world is ending and another world is beginning. And we are here in the mess of it. Let's be here loving while we can. Go in peace.